Our reply to Adani: fraud cannot be obfuscated by nationalism or a bloated response that ignores every key allegation we raised. On January 24, we released a report outlining numerous issues of suspected fraud at the Adani Group, the second largest conglomerate in India run by the world's then third richest man. In terms of substance, Adani's 413-page response only included about 30 pages focused on issues related to our report. Source: page 24 of Adani's response, before addressing our questions, which describes its initiative to produce safe-to-eat vegetables of the questions it did answer, the group largely confirmed or attempted to sidestep our findings. Our report asked 88 specific questions of the Adani Group. In other instances, Adani simply pointed to its own filings and declared the questions or relevant matters settled, again failing to substantively address the issues raised. But before we get into those, we note that the core allegations of our report, focused on numerous suspect transactions with offshore entities, were left completely unaddressed. Adani's defense: Vinod Adani, brother to the chairman, is not a related party to the group and there are no disclosable conflicts relating to this web of opaque transactions. Our report detailed a vast labyrinth of offshore shell entities directed by or associated with Vinod Adani, the older brother of Chairman Gautam Adani. Beyond the requirements to disclose related party dealings, many of our questions focused on the source of funds for suspect transactions between Adani Group entities and Vinod Adani associated entities. This information is critical to the integrity of Adani's business, as it indicates whether the company is round-tripping turnover, laundering illicit funds, or using cash to manipulate its stock. For example, we asked a series of questions about transactions emanating from entities where Vinod Adani or the head of the Adani Group Family Investment Office served as directors. In other words, we are expected to believe that Gautam Adani has no idea why his brother Vinod lent massive sums of money to Adani entities, and no idea where the money originated from. If any of that were true, Gautam could easily clear up the mystery by calling his brother, or asking him at the next family dinner, why he has been directing billions of dollars to Adani-controlled entities through a network of opaque offshore shell entities. Our report outlined numerous irregularities and connections between suspected offshore stock parking entities and Adani promoters, raising key questions about whether promoter holdings were fully disclosed. Adani's response claimed it simply doesn't know who its largest public holders are. As a reminder, here are several examples of suspect Mauritius-based entities with large, concentrated holdings in Adani stock. In one example, we showed how an entity that had been an Adani-related party made a major investment into one of the suspect offshore holders, drawing a clear line between the Adani Group and the suspected stock parking entities. We also showed how several of the suspected stock parking entities had been formed with the help of Amy Corp, which was involved in one of the most notorious international fraud and money laundering scandals in history, the 1MDB scandal. Specifically, regarding the company's use of Amy Corp, which formed at least 7 Adani promoter entities, at least 17 offshore shells and entities associated with Vinod Adani, and at least 3 Mauritius-based offshore shareholders of Adani stock, Adani said it was not concerned about the company's previous scandals, like the 1MDB fraud. Further, we showed that the suspected stock parking entities engaged in wildly irregular trading, accounting for up to 30% to 47% of delivery volume, essentially cornering the market in Adani shares. In its response, Adani once again claimed complete ignorance as to its largest public holders and their trading patterns. On Adani's legal technicality defense, it strikes us as obvious that Vinod Adani is a related party to the Adani Group. We believe investors should regard Vinod Adani as a related party under either definition based on his familial relationship with the chairman and much of the senior management of the Adani Group, 2. His suspected significant undisclosed ownership of shares in Adani Group companies, 3. His historical presence on the board of various Adani Group companies, and 4. his extensive and irregular transactions with Adani. In short, these transactions bear all the same potential risks and issues of any other related party transaction: non-arm's length transactions, corruption, conflicts of interest, stock manipulation and fraud, yet Adani claims investors are not entitled to know. Of the questions Adani answered, they largely confirmed our findings, argued points we didn't raise or sidestepped the key issues altogether. Here we list several examples of responses that simply failed to address the questions we asked. Adani responded by simply declaring the question to be incorrect without explanation, adding that the matter had earlier been settled. We asked for an explanation as to why Adani's listed companies so regularly seem to be the subject of market manipulation investigations and prosecutions. The question, which parallels issues that continue to this day, centered around whether the Adani Group had been forthright to the government about its dealings with Vinod Adani. Adani's response seemed to indirectly confirm that its statements to regulators were in fact false, adding qualifying language claiming that Vinod was not involved in relevant entities associated with the investigation, as opposed to the any it had claimed when asked by regulators, emphasis added. In reality, Vinod Adani was a director of Adani Group companies. In short, it seems the Adani Group flagrantly misled government officials on one of the most important issues our report raised, its relationship with Vinod Adani. We noted that the entity is controlled by the son of a close associate of Vinod Adani. Despite the controller of PMC projects clearly being an Adani representative, we found no related party disclosures about the massive payments to PMC projects, which siphoned cash out of listed companies. Adani simply didn't respond to these questions, instead referring to documents from an earlier DRI investigation. We had asked Adani Group to detail the entities involved in these transactions by providing data from its weekly shareholding patterns. Rather than address this request, Adani simply regurgitated our analysis, which indicates that offshore suspected stock parking entities did in fact participate in the deals. This reinforces what we viewed as an almost statistical certainty, that the suspected stock parking entities participated in the deal and helped Adani Green avert a likely delisting. We also note that the recent follow-on public offer, FPO, in Adani Enterprises contains many of the same type of malicious funds that we pointed out as likely being in clear violation of SEBI regulations. For example, the anchor list of Adani Enterprises investors contains a host of suspect malicious funds. Some text goes here. What is the nature of Chang Hongling's relationship with the Adani Group, including his relationship with Vinod Adani? Some text goes here. Conclusion: Adani's response largely confirmed our findings and ignored our key questions. In no event should Hindenburg Research or any affiliated party be liable for any direct or indirect trading losses caused by any information in this report. All expressions of opinion are subject to change without notice, and Hindenburg Research does not undertake to update or supplement this report or any of the information contained herein.